Welcome, Cap fam. We have a little bit of a hybrid segment here coming up. You know that we always do like a little bit of a feature piece and an alumni piece. Well, this week, those two things kind of merged and made one super segment. So we are here with an alumni feature piece, and we are bringing onto the program Katie Lease from the class of 2018. So Katie, first and foremost, you have now overtaken the honor as one of our youngest alums that we've featured on the program, but we're glad to have you here. And I know that you have a pretty special occasion or an event that happened to you a couple weeks ago, which we'll get into, but let's kind of set the foundation first. You know, you were a golfer here at Capital just a few years ago, and now you are in the Capital admissions office as a counselor. So first, talk to us about that and what you're doing as an admissions counselor.
Absolutely. Well, first, it is such an honor to be joining the podcast. So thank you so much for the invitation. But yes, I have found my way back to Capital as a staff member, and I work in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. So essentially, my role is to recruit students and kind of inform them about Capital and the opportunities for them here. So my specific area is Northeast Ohio and also the Pennsylvania area. So pretty much I camp out in that area in the fall and meet with students and families and then kind of help them through the admission process, the financial aid process, and essentially help them transition to being a Capital student.
So when you graduated, which again wasn't all that long ago, what were you thinking as far as a career path, and how did it come back full circle to serving the institution in which you spent 4 years of your life in?
Absolutely. That's such a funny question. I actually started my career at Capital as an athletic training pre-physical therapy major, which I obviously changed from to business. But throughout my time at Capital, I was kind of like seeing the effect that higher education, specifically at Capital, was having on myself and my peers. And I thought that there was something so special about that. And I wanted to help other students experience that too. I know that the path to college is not always a smooth one for some folks. And so I really wanted to help prospective students in any way that I could. So that's kind of what led to this career. Being a student athlete, I am especially passionate about, especially Division III athletics and the effect that it can have on students long term. So I really wanted to work with student athletes specifically and truly all students, helping them transition into higher education.
All right, so now I'm going to just be really curious here. You said
Yes.
that you're going out to the Northeast Ohio area and Western Pennsylvania, and you do some physical recruiting, but then you obviously have to come back to campus. So what does your day-to-day look like when you're both on the road and then when you come back to Columbus?
Yes, they're long days. I'll tell you that. So typically I will be on the road Monday through Thursday, and then I'll come back in the office on Friday. So in the mornings during the week, I will visit high schools and pop in and speak with students and guidance counselors. And then in the evenings, I'm usually at college fairs meeting with prospective students. So they are like, 12, 15-hour days. And then in Fridays, I come back to either read applications or meet with families in the office.
Sounds like you and I are working a lot of the same hours, just in very different ways. So
Exactly.
Well, thank you for all that you do. And again, if anybody is out there that is interested in joining the Cat Fam, Katie is obviously a phenomenal resource for you to tap into. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But, we also have to talk about you as a student athlete. Golf is a tough sport for young people to get into. So tell us how you became interested or introduced to the sport and made it a significant part of your life.
Yes, that's a funny question as well. So I grew up, like most young people, I think, playing team sports like softball and basketball and volleyball. But my dad was always an avid golfer. And so he really pushed, and I mean really pushed, for me to be a golfer from a young age. And at that point, like, sports were still a social hour for me. So because none of my friends played golf, I was totally not interested whatsoever. and would get so frustrated that he would really try to push the sport on me. But my 8th grade year, I loved volleyball. I was in love with volleyball, and I actually got cut from the middle school team. And I was devastated, like truly the most devastating thing that happened up until that point in my life. But then that was kind of finally his window to introduce me to golf, and I kind of took to it. So that whole year, my whole 8th grade year, I worked really hard at it. He pushed me really hard with it. And I was able to try out for the varsity golf team the next year. And to my surprise, I made it and got to play 4 years of varsity golf. And that was an incredible experience. But I think so often too, families that are, picking sports for their kids to try kind of shy away from golf because it's expensive, right? Like for adults, it's a very expensive sport. But actually for youth, it's very affordable. There's lots of camps and clinics and programs that are certainly no more expensive than other team sports. So I would certainly encourage parents and young folks to get involved as much as possible.
And we promise everyone that the tie-in here is the golf, and Katie did something phenomenal just a couple of weeks ago that really speaks to her game, and that it hasn't faded away at all since she has graduated, and we'll get to that in just a second. So first, Katie, your path to Capital. You mentioned that you were a 4-year letter winner as a golfer, and that was at nearby Hilliard Davidson High School. So how did you go from being a local student athlete to making your way over to Capital?
Yeah, so my dad spent some time at Capital. So even when I was a kid, we would go to football games at Burnlore on Saturdays and walk around campus and stuff. So I was rather familiar with Capital from like a community perspective. But when it was time for me to look for schools, I'll be honest, like the recruitment process had a lot to do with my college search. I knew that I wanted a smaller school. I knew that I wanted to be in the Columbus area. And at the time, I knew I wanted to be an athletic trainer. So, to my surprise, there were a lot of schools in Columbus that kind of fit that mold. So I visited them all. I did several visits to them all, actually. But I kept coming back to Capital. There was something about the feel when I was on campus that as soon as I got there, it instantly felt like home and I didn't want to leave. And so I did make the decision on Capital my senior year and never wavered. And that truthfully, when I made that decision, I was completely at peace and have really never looked back.
Clearly, because we got you back not too soon afterwards. So we're here talking with Katie Lease, class of 2018, and also a Capital admissions undergraduate counselor. So Katie, now we kind of get into the crux of what really caught my attention. Your former golf head coach Andy Garcia threw out a tweet out there, and it said something along the lines of, "So proud of Katie Lee's former golfer hitting a $10,000 shot," which then prompted me to say, we need to become better friends. And also, I got to find out a little bit more about this. So you hit the shot of a lifetime in a charity tournament that you played in about a week or two ago. You hit a hole in one. Tell us the gritty details first. What course were you at? Describe the hole for us. Take us down that road.
Absolutely. So we were playing at Golf Club of Dublin, which is about 30 minutes from the Bexley area. And it was a shotgun start. So this was actually our last hole of the day. It was number 17, a par 3. And it was 151 yards, a little downhill, a little downwind. So I took a club about 10 yards less than I needed and just kind of swung away.
Wait a minute, you're telling me that this was just a swing? There had to have been some skill in there.
I truly never imagined, and honestly, I'm kind of exposing myself here. I really have never been that close to a hole in one in my life, like maybe 6 to 10 feet. So I really have never been close. And when I stood over the ball, the only thought that I had was, this club could really be perfect. And I was honestly more worried about winning the golf tournament or at least finishing in the top 3. So I wanted to get it as close as possible so we had a birdie chance. But I did think that could have been the perfect club for that shot.
So just to be clear, you had never actually hit a hole in one before. This was the very first time.
This was the first one, maybe the last, I don't know, but yeah, I've really never even been close.
Okay. Now you told me that you were with other members of the cat fam as part of your foursome, and you kind of joked when you approached the hole that you didn't even know that this was a thing, and what you would do if you did. So, what was the kind of approach when you saw that this was a possibility, and did you really think that you had a shot at winning?
Yeah, so when we pulled up to the tee box, we see this big sign that says grand prize, $10,000 cash for a hole in one. And one of my playing, can you imagine like what that would do? Like $10,000 at this point in our life, like that is life-changing money right now. So they were all joking what they would buy with it, cars and stuff like that. And I said student loans. So it would help pay off my student loans. But I did think about that at first, but truly never imagined that that was even an option.
So when you hit the shot, I mean, I don't know what the view was, if you had a clear view of the pin, but did you see it go in, or did you have to go in there and check it out firsthand just to confirm, or how did that go, and what was your reaction?
Yeah, so from my vantage point, after I hit the shot, I knew that it was going to be online. It looked like it was going to be right at the pin. I saw it bounce once, and from my vantage point, that's really all I could see. There was a spotter there for like the tournament, obviously making sure that people weren't making it up, the hole in one situation. But she like got out of her chair when the ball was still on the green, and I was like, oh, like it must have been a good shot. She just stood up, and then she started like jumping up and down with her hands in the air. And at that point, I still didn't believe it because I didn't physically see it go in. But she was super excited, and then my playing partners just lost it, like they went crazy. And I definitely think they were more excited than I was because I was totally in complete shock.
That's amazing. Yeah, that also kind of ironic that you weren't even the first one to be able to celebrate your own shot, but
Right.
that's another thing. But so okay, so you win the $10,000. Like, how does that all play out? Like, I mean, it's not like, do they have a check on hand for you right then and there, or is there a process you got to go through?
Yeah, so I was thinking they'd show up with one of those big checks, like I'm standing there waiting for it to happen. But to my surprise, that's not how it works. So apparently, a golf course can buy like an insurance policy on the cash. So really, they spend about $300 to have it insured for the 10,000, and that's where like the payout comes from.
Okay.
But yeah, so I had no idea that's how it worked. But also, so they were asking me all these questions and making sure I had the standard amount of clubs in my bag. Like it was definitely like a very intense process. I actually still have a ton of paperwork that I have to have like notarized and stuff. So it'll be a process, but hopefully worth it in the end.
Oh, without question. Once that deposit comes down, you'll feel
Yes.
it. So, we're talking with Katie Lease, class of 2018, who is our alumni feature this week. And we just got done talking about the shot. Now, there's kind of a little bit of a backstory that, in my opinion, and you would probably agree, makes this so much more special. Um, this was a charity golf tournament that has some very high personal value to you. Would you tell us why and what that was?
Absolutely, yeah. So the tournament was for a charity called Families for a Cure. They are out of Central Ohio, and they essentially support patient care programs and help to fund cancer research here in the area. I volunteered for this organization in high school, and I've kind of kept up with their events even afterwards. But it's really special. So my dad ended up passing away from pancreatic cancer in 2011. So it was my freshman year of high school that he passed, and so having the opportunity to not only support an organization that supports families like mine, but also have this hole in one happen here made it even more special. And even this golf course in general. So Golf Club of Dublin was the last round of golf I played with my dad. It was kind of where I grew up playing as a kid through high school. It was my home course. So lots of ties, not only to the organization, but also to the golf course in general.
If that doesn't give you all the feels, Cat fan, I really don't know what does. But Katie, so I mean, when all of this is happening and things start calculating in your head, that ties in with the shot and the history and your family. Like, is there ever a point in time where you just kind of say that this has come full circle and that there was probably something maybe a little bit more at play, or just add some degree of specialness to this?
That I think I used that exact term, came full circle, multiple times. And when we finished, the organization had what was called recognition row. So you could like put a name on a sign in memory of a person that had passed from cancer. And so I did have a sign for my dad. And the first picture that I took after taking that or hitting that shot was with that sign with my dad. So it was so special, and I definitely think that there was more in play there than just my shot that I hit. And I joked that I definitely got an extra bounce in there somewhere from my dad.
We'd all like to think so too. So,
Yes.
so tell us more about your dad. I mean, you mentioned earlier that he actually played golf at Cap for a couple of years, so he's a member of the Cap fam as well. So tell us a little bit more about him, other than that he was instrumental in introducing you to golf.
Yes, he was a character. Golf was certainly his passion, and he just wanted so badly for someone else in the family to experience that as well. Certainly, my favorite memories with him are on the golf course, and when I look back, if he wouldn't have convinced me to play, my life would have been so much different. Like, I don't know if I would have attended Capital. I certainly wouldn't have the friendships and the experiences that I had throughout college because of that. And so some things I think just come down to fate sometimes, and everything happening for a reason. But I try to live my life with him on my shoulder is my guardian angel. And he was also really passionate about all the lessons that can be learned through the game of golf. So whether that's integrity, perseverance, hard work, like he was really big on implementing those into my personal life as well. So I really try to take the golf lessons that I've learned and use them on a daily basis with him in mind, truly.
That all sounds fantastic. And now we get to the point where, we go back into your alumni status with Capital. And we always ask these questions of our alums at the tail end of these discussions. To you, what makes Capital so special? And whether that's from your time as a student athlete, or even in your role as an admissions counselor, or if those two things merge together.
Yes. Yeah, so it was special enough for me to want to make a career out of it. I'll say that, my experience that I had. But truly, and I'm sure that many people before me have said this, but it's the people. It's the students that choose Capital. It's the staff and faculty and coaches that choose Capital every day. It's a family. And when you enter into this family, you're in it for life. So as an alum, coming back as a staff member, I still feel that. So the people are certainly what make Capital special, both while you're here and even thereafter.
And finally, Katie, what piece of advice can you give to a younger member of the Cat fam, or maybe a prospective member of the Cat fam?
Yes, absolutely. So I would say, of course, academics are the forefront of higher education, right? Having those experiences, but also what you learn outside of the classroom, in my opinion, is equally as important. So I always encourage students to get involved early, get involved often, because those are where, real life experiences come into play. You're going to have a lot of fun if you get involved on campus. So support your peers, whether that's athletically or and other extracurricular events, but get involved and stay involved.
Well, Katie, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing this fantastic happening that occurred to you about a couple weeks ago. And like I said, we need to become better friends. I mean, this is definitely something that needs to happen. But again, thank you for sharing that with us and sharing your memories about your father, because they're so special and prevalent to this story. And we look forward to working together and bringing more members of the Cat fam to campus.
Yes, it was such a pleasure, Ryan. Thank you again for inviting me to the show.
Well, my pleasure. And if anybody is out there, once again, that is interested in Capital University or getting a different perspective of it, Katie, you are certainly a resource in the admissions counseling office here at Capital University, and we encourage you to reach out to her. Katie, what is some contact information that maybe people can get a hold of you at?
Absolutely. So my Capital email is klease@capital.edu. And my office phone number is 614-236-6225.
And that is KLEASE at capital.edu if you want to reach out to Katie and pick her brain about her time at Capital or how you can get into the CAP fam for the upcoming year or beyond. Thanks again, Katie, for everything and for sharing your story. And for everybody else out there, stay tuned as we move along in our episode of Forward Capital Crusaders.